Hey y'all, it's your girl Sierra, aka Little Bit, and you are tuning in on another episode of the greatest podcast of the year, Little Bit of Therapy. You already know. If you new here, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. If you are not new here, thank you for tuning in and tell the next person to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let's get straight into it. So, you already know I'm going to have my notes, but I got to give y'all a rundown, a very brief rundown of what I'm going to be talking about today, right? So, have you ever been in a position in your life in which you felt like your growth was offensive to others? They may say that you acting brand new. They may assume that you think that you are acting better than them, or they probably don't take you serious because you are you. Yeah. So grab what you need, prepare to release, because it's going to go all the way up with a little bit of therapy. Let's heal it. All right, y'all, I got my notes today. So today I'll be touching base with the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13. And if you are not familiar with the Bible, the Gospel of Matthew pretty much, outlines the genealogy of Jesus, him being baptized by John the Baptist, and just overall Jesus being tempted in the wilderness and the early years of Jesus's ministry leading up to his crucifixion and his resurrection. I would say that when I first started my spiritual journey, I did start with the Gospel of Matthew. I started with the Gospels first, and it was just really, really amazing. So if you are not familiar with the Bible and you are trying to figure out, okay, where do I go? How do I start? You can definitely start with the Gospels, or you can even start with Proverbs. And honestly, starting from the beginning could help too, but I'm not gonna lie. Those names, when it comes to the when it comes to the genealogy of things, oh baby, you might need something to help you pronunciate them names. That's all I'm gonna say. But anyway, let's heal it. So, you already know I got my notes today. So, Matthew chapter 13, it talks about Jesus going back to his hometown, right? His hometown is Nazareth, and he decided to go back to his hometown to continue his teachings as part of his ministry, as part of his assignment, right? So I'm going to go ahead and outline some few points as I'm reading this chapter, and then we are going to tie that into how one's growth may be offensive to others, or how your growth may be rejected by the people around you. Let's get straight into it. And so you already know I got my Bible, and I will be reading once again from the English Standard Version. And once again, like I always say, you can get your own type of translation, whatever better resonates with you, right? So you don't want to get a Bible in which you really don't understand what is being said, right? All right. Oh, and also chapter 13 is very, very long in the book of Matthew. And so to be specific, I am going to be starting off at verse 53. All right. So it says, "And when Jesus had finished these parables, he went away from there. And coming to his hometown, he taught them in their synagogue, so that they were astonished and said, 'Where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works?'" Let me stop right there. Y'all. The first point that I want to go over is, where did this man get these mighty works and this wisdom from? And ladies and gentlemen, when I read that, it really gave the voice of suspicion, right? They listened to Jesus, right? But they didn't open their hearts to Jesus because they allowed their suspicion to be a barrier to receive the things that Jesus was telling them, right? It was a guarantee that they wasn't receiving the things that Jesus was telling them, because it was just where did this come from? You know what I'm saying? And so it's just because they knew him, they questioned his credibility. Because they knew him, they questioned his knowledge, right? Because they knew him, they questioned if he was an expert or not, right? They had their hearts hardened just because they knew him, right? And they wondered, how could a person like you suddenly obtain all of this knowledge? How could a person like you suddenly obtain all of this wisdom, right? And we have to understand that we will not be the same person throughout our lives, right? We are constantly changing, but we also have to understand that who we was may not be the version of the person that the people in our lives have last met. heal it. So that means based on whatever last interaction you had with that person, despite how much you've changed, despite how much God has moved in your life, despite how much you've grown, if they have not witnessed that, if they have not seen that, if they not have been in the prayer closet with you, right? If they have not been a part of the journey, they are going to hold on to the version of you that they last experienced, right? And we have to understand that we will go through seasons of obscurity, right? So when I say seasons of obscurity, that means seasons of being unseen, right? Seasons in which we are in the development room, and there will be times in which God will make sure that we experience those seasons of obscurity, because he doesn't want anything on the outside coming on the inside to interfere of what he is doing, right? And once we leave that season of obscurity, one of the things that I noticed, because I feel like I'm still in a season of obscurity, I'm slowly but surely getting out of that season. But one of the things that I realized is as you are slowly but surely getting out, and once you are out of that season, you will not be the same person, right? You will not be the same person. You may be the same person that meets the eye, right? You may be the same person physically, but you are not the same person mentally and emotionally. And that is where that disconnect comes from, right? That is why you can change so much and a person just like, yeah, right. Because when they see you, they see who they last experienced, right? They don't know the things that you have went through to become the person that you are today, to live up to who God created you to be, to live up to the purpose, because you are purpose. And they refuse to understand that, because once again, it's just like, yeah, right. How did they just change overnight? Who are they to tell me about motivational and inspirational things? Who are they to give me such guidance? Right? And that is something that Jesus experienced when he went back to his, hometown. And we have to understand that this voice of suspicion, it also comes from a person being committed to misunderstanding you. It comes from a person of being committed to mislabeling you, right? Because Jesus had an assignment, right? Jesus had an assignment, and he went back home. He went back home to try to save his people, right? Because understand, sometimes people grow and then they forget where they came from, right? Jesus didn't forget where he came from. He didn't forget where he was birthed. He went back and tried to save his people, but because he went back and he wasn't the same person who they last known or who they last experienced, they hardened their heart. They rejected him. They were committed to misunderstanding him. They were committed to blocking out all of the wonderful works and the mighty teachings that he was trying to instill in them to help save their souls, right? I'm telling you, when a person is committed to misunderstanding you, you have to ask yourself, what can I really do to help them understand me? Nothing at all. Did Jesus spend time trying to convince them, hey, I am the, Son of the Messiah. I am Jesus. I am Lord. I am Savior. No, he didn't. So why are you spending time on social media responding back to those comments, clapping back? Why are you spending time trying to explain your side of the story of things? Why are you trying so hard to be this person that you know that you already are, and you can be that and do that authentically without you making excessive efforts for people to see that you have changed? That's something that I had to work on. That's something that I'm still working on, and I heavily worked upon it, because through the strength and the mighty power of, God, and understanding that he loves me and I am his masterpiece, that has helped me recognize I don't have to work for man's approval. If you're working for man's approval, you are not a servant of God, period, because you are idolizing the thoughts and feelings and like the opinions of other people. Who cares on how you are perceived? God says that you are no longer that person. So hold on firmly to what you believe in and stop taking other people's truth as your reality, especially when they are committed to misunderstanding you. Heal it. Let's continue, shall we? All right. Moving on to verse 55. It says, is not this the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary? Are not his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas? And are not all his sisters with us? I'm telling y'all, I loved reading this chapter because it just really, really made me think about, like, wow, let's fill in the blank. It's like, is this not such and such? Is this not Sierra who been to jail twice, one for reckless driving and another one for driving under the influence? Is this not the Sierra who was expelled and suspended from school? Is this not the Sierra who stayed fighting? Is this not the Sierra who had anger issues and crashed out? Is this not the Sierra to whenever time I try to communicate with her, she tries to argue? Is this not the Sierra who she was in school, but she was always in the world partying, drinking and smoking and focused on having a good time? Is that not the Sierra? Is that not the Sierra? I'm telling you, you would be like, wow, that's you? Yeah, that's me. But it goes back to those versions of people that they may or may not have experienced, right? So depending on at what point of my life in which you met me, you may not even have known that I experienced those things. Not because I hid it, but it's just because based on your interactions, based on my lifestyle, based on how I present myself, right? Based on what you observe, it's just like, that's not the Sierra that I met. But guarantee, the people who have, known me for such a long time, some people may view me as those things. And we're going to talk about differentiating between the people who can't let go of the past and keep reminding you of your past versus the people who be like, wow, I'm so proud of you because when I think of the past, you came a long way. Heal it. I'm telling you. I want you to think about instances that, people may more so associate you with, right? Think about your past and think about your mistakes and your imperfections and your errors, and think about how you are constantly reminded of those things in a way in which it's just like people keep identifying you by the past instead of identifying the past as an indicator that helped create you who you are today. Heal it. When you think about what the people were saying in Nazareth about Jesus, like, is this not the carpenter's son? Baby, all I heard was that voice of bitterness. It's like some people don't want you to improve. They don't want you to improve at all. And some people, they gonna clap for you until you're doing better than them. Some people will clap for you until you are doing better than them, because it's just like, how dare you succeed? How dare you be from the same place that I'm from? We both grew up together. We both from the ghetto. We both had trials and tribulations. But here you are succeeding and I'm in the same place? So let me go ahead and remind you where you came from. Let me remind you that you ain't better than the next person. And baby, when a person's heart is postured in the right place, you don't need to remind them where they came from. You don't need to remind them that they are not better than the next, because guess what? God had did the work, with them and through them for them to even practice the forgiveness that they struggled to give amongst themselves, because they knew where they came from. They knew of their sins, right? They knew of their mistakes. They knew of their past. They experienced those things, and then they wondered, God, how could you love a person like me? How could you do such great works with a person like me based on who I was and what I did? But guess what? Being in the presence of God, that'll help you have a grateful and humble heart to understand his love and his grace and his mercy, and knowing that it wasn't our works. It was through the faith that God, right? It was through the faith that Jesus is our Savior, and he nailed all of our transgressions and he nailed all of our inequities to the cross, right? Heal it. Sometimes our growth reminds an individual of their lack of growth. Sometimes our growth reminds an individual of their lack of growth. You can have a simple conversation, and I notice this sometimes. You can be having a normal conversation with someone, and then you can just be like, yeah, that doesn't resonate with me no more. I just have like a total different perspective. They looking like, what you mean a total different perspective? What you trying to say? And so when it comes to instances like that, to which is just like, what you mean? It makes them begin to feel insecure about themselves, because it's just like, what you trying to say about me? I'm not good enough. I'm this and I'm that. Oh, you think you better because I'm in this place in my life and you in that place? But it's not that at all. It's just literally You have changed. It's just literally that you have grown. And some things that you used to resonate with, some things that you used to engage in, some things that you used to agree with, you just don't anymore. And that doesn't mean that you are better than the next person. That doesn't mean that you are talking down on the next person. It just means that y'all are on two different levels when it comes to, y'all are in two different positions in your life. I don't even want to say levels, because sometimes when we think of like levels, it's just kind of like, okay, I'm a level 10 and you on level 5. It comes from a place of superiority and inferiority, right? And so I want to say that we are just in different positions, right? We just have different perspectives, and that is okay. But the more that you interact with individuals who may not be in the same position as you, or may have like-minded perspectives as you, it is likely that when yours is so different from theirs, and like you may not be in agreement with the things that they may do or say, they may try to project certain things onto you and try to like make it seem like you are the problem, right? Or sometimes they may even take the initiative to go out their way to over explain themselves to make sure that you are not seeing them in a certain light. And it just goes back to like those insecurities, right? And so I really think that it's important that as we are on our journey of growth and understanding how our growth could be offensive, we have to make sure also that we are upholding the responsibility of making sure that we are not prideful, making sure that we are not carrying ourselves in a way in which we are viewing people as less than, right? And if there are certain things that we want to correct other believers on, right, we have to meet them where they are at, because that shows the grace of God, right? We can't be feeding them with spiritual meat, right, and they aren't there yet when it comes to their spiritual nourishment, right? They may need milk, right? So it's just like babies versus adults. Both need food, both need nourishment, right? But you can't get no baby no steak, right? You're going to give them milk, and milk is not going to be sufficient enough for a adult, right, to get the proper nutrients. So that's the same way when it comes to spirituality and, you know, correcting other believers and helping them understand like your growth and like your journey and things of that nature. You got to meet them where they are at, right? Heal it. And so something else I want to touch base on when it comes to like that voice of bitterness, sometimes there's that like trauma bonding, right? So if you have developed a relationship with someone and y'all bonded over, you know, drinking and smoking, or y'all bonded because y'all both didn't like the same person, you know, like things of that nature, but you stopped drinking and smoking. You don't got no beef with that person no more. Y'all not in relationship, but you cool. You don't feel the need to talk about them. You don't feel the need to, you know, tell their business. You don't feel the need to just have conversations about them, right? Or y'all may have trauma bonded over literal, you know, trauma, but you are no longer identifying yourself by or as like your trauma, right? You're turning your trauma into triumph, but that individual still wants to gossip. That individual still wants to just party and drink. That individual wants to have a victim mindset and use their past as a justification to be crutched upon their trauma, right? Y'all not connecting no more, and that bond is breaking. And sometimes people will try to make you feel bad for them. They try to manipulate things to try to make it seem like, okay, am I tripping? Did I say something wrong? Am I doing something wrong? Because the things that you are embodying, they are not there yet to ingest it, right? They are not there yet to digest it. They don't want to be there yet, right? They don't want to be there. So it's just like, ugh, like, you think you all that? Let me remind you of reasons as to why you are not all of that. And that is why when people do that, you have to be really firm into who God created you to be and who He called you to be. You have to be confident in the calling and then the assignment, because there will be attacks of the enemy, and sometimes those attacks come from family. Sometimes those attacks comes from friends, the people that's closest to you. You would think that it's more so strangers, but baby, it be the people that's closest to you in which the enemy uses their flesh and sends spirits in their flesh to attack you. So that's another thing that I would like to briefly touch base on. That is why we should not fight carnally, but we should always pray, because it may be your mom attacking you. It might be your sister attacking you. It might be your best friend attacking you, but it's not really them. You see it through the flesh like, okay, this is happening, but that's not really them. It's a spirit, right? And if you are not confident in who you are, the enemy knows to send spirits of discouragement and doubt and rejection and insecurities your way, because he knows, there it is. Now I got them questioning who they are. Now I got them questioning their assignment. Now I got them thinking about and ruminating about all of the things that they have done and said. I'm about to have them count themselves out. And then that'll have them stay in the cycle. And I can keep my hands off of it because I'm not omnipresent. I'm not all-knowing. But once I get them in this cycle, I can move on to the next and have my hands on it. And then all they're going to be doing is blaming me. And I didn't even do nothing but plant the seed. Heal it. Let's move on, because I can go on and on and on and on. All right. So it says, where did this man, what did that say? Yeah, sometimes that's what I'm talking about. That's why it's important for you to get a Bible that you understand, because I just stumbled on that. But imagine if this was the King James Version. Woo! Heal it. Okay, it says, where then did this man get all these things? And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his hometown and in his own household. And he did not do many mighty works there because of their unbelief. Baby, where did this man get all these things? The voice of doubt. That is the voice of doubt. Let me tell you something. When God calls you to do something, it's not meant for everyone to understand. And you also got to understand that God's word for you is for you. It's not for someone else. So, of course, God is going to cause confusion on their behalf, but you got to block that spirit of doubt. You understand? Because their confusion and their doubt and them not understanding, that could be part of God's plan to make sure that they don't know exactly what's going on, so that way they don't attack, right? I'm not saying that people just be out here wanting like the worst for you, but you have to think of things from a spiritual aspect. Sometimes you have to understand monitoring spirits, right? So when God gives you a word, or when you are just making all these changes and they seem to be very drastic, it's not meant for the next person to understand. Of course they won't believe. Was they in the prayer closet with you? Was they with you during that night when you said yes to God? Was they with you when God carried you and delivered you from that thing into another thing? No. So stop sitting up here trying to type up a dissertation or having a presentation to help a person understand, hey, I'm changing. This is what's going on. These are all of the ins and outs. This is what God told me. These are all of the plans that he has for me and over me in my life. Baby, it's not for them. Let them doubt. Let them doubt. Let them doubt. And then it was just like, as I continued to read the verse, and they were just like so like doubtful, and they weren't like supportive. You got to understand that sometimes the people that you know may be the least supportive people in your life, right? Social media, for like an example, you may have, people in your life that really does support you, and that is very great. You make sure you acknowledge that and you appreciate that and you hold on to those people, right? But a lot of the times it be people who don't even know you. It be people who don't even know you. And that's something that I used to struggle with, because I'm like, why is it that people that I don't know, they stay supporting me, but the people that I know and the people that I'm most closest to, But baby, I couldn't allow that to cause me to waste my time on my assignment. I couldn't allow that to make me question myself. I couldn't allow that to take away the value that I know that God instilled in me, right? God knew who Jesus was, and Jesus knew who he was. So as those people in his hometown, as they had those hard hearts, he didn't allow them to stop him from doing what he was called to do, and he moved on to the next thing, right? And then honestly, Jesus, he didn't even go back. He did what he had to do, and he kept it moving. And he couldn't do no more works because they didn't allow themselves to receive it, baby. You need to go where you are celebrated and not tolerated. You need to go where you are accepted and not rejected, because if you plant yourself in a wrong environment, you will not grow. You will not grow. You can be this beautiful plant, right? You can be this beautiful, gorgeous plant, but if you are planted in the wrong environment, the growth will be stagnant. You will then begin to question yourself, all based on the environment, all based on someone else's jealousy, all based on someone else's projection. You have to ask yourself, where am I planted? Where are you planted? Right? It's just like water bottles. It's water everywhere. But I guarantee you go to the dollar store, the water is cheap, but baby, you get up on the plane, that water might be $5. That water might be $5 because where that water is planted, the environment, the value that was placed into the water, right? And you got to understand, baby, everything that you do, it doesn't bring you value. You put the value into those things. And that's something that I had to work upon. And that is why, as I'm growing and I'm changing and I'm straying away from other, people's approval and focusing on God's approval, it's difficult. But one of the things that I pray for, especially being like a content creator, baby, I had to pray against, me being preoccupied with going viral and stuff like that, right? I'm like, God, take away the numbers. And as you take away the numbers and as you take away the followers, may I still look at my videos and be like, dang, you know what I'm saying? May I still look at what I'm doing and just like, wow, this is amazing. Look at God. And baby, he answered that prayer. Let me tell you, a video ain't went viral in a long time. I had 22,000 something followers on TikTok. I got 20.6. Yeah. My views have been stuck in the 200 jail, barely that. Sometimes I get 56 views. Sometimes I get 8. And guess what? I still post because the numbers don't bring me value. My content is the value through Christ. And so I just don't want anyone to miss out on what God has for you because you're too busy trying to be someone else's savior, especially when they are not ready yet to be saved, or you are missing out on what God has for you because you are trying to save your image in someone else's mind, right? We all can experience the same thing but have different perspectives, right? And so when it comes to who we are, not everyone is going to accept us. Not everyone is going to, understand us. Not everyone is going to get it. But we can't take their pen and write the story ourselves. We have to continue to allow God to write our story, and we have to continue to be obedient to that and live that out. And so I know today's episode is a little bit more shorter than usual, and honestly I don't even know if it's shorter. I don't see the timing, right? But I just really wanted to encourage those who are changing, encourage those who may not even know the answer, encourage those who may feel guilty or bad, right? Encourage those who are just in this midst of, being a caterpillar and eventually, turning into the butterfly, or encourage those who may be in that cocoon season, right? Understanding that people may pick at you, people may come and go, there may be distractions, right? You know what I'm saying? There may be feelings of discomfort, but don't stop. Don't change who you are to get rid of the discomfort. Don't change who you are to receive the approval of other people. Don't stop what you're doing because another person don't believe. You believe. Your assignment is not another person's assignment. It is not their responsibility to have faith. It is not their responsibility to believe. It is your responsibility. And you see, when Jesus went back to his hometown in Nazareth, he did what he did and he took his hands off of it. He played his part. So you got to ask yourself, what part am I playing? Am I playing my part, or am I trying to play God's part? Am I playing my part, or am I trying to play everyone else's part, right? Growing is not easy, and it's difficult, and it comes with a lot. But although it costs us a lot, it's worth it. Heal it.